Yo, what's up, everybody? Hey, welcome to the Outlook Podcast. My name is Pollard, and I'm super excited to announce to you guys that we're going to be releasing content. I'm going to be interviewing some of my favorite people, and I just want to encourage you guys, hey, lean in, because what we're about to start doing is going to be very, very beneficial. Because I believe when you lean into content, that content sometimes leans back into your life. But today, I have one of my favorite people here with me today, and that's my beautiful wife, Aaliyah. Babe, say hey to everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name's Aaliyah. And,
so, babe, just to cut you off.
Okay, go ahead, do your thing.
I'm hoping that we're close enough to where I can cut you off. And,
yeah, you good.
Okay,
good,
cool.
Good.
Why do you think I chose you to be my first person on the podcast?
That is a great question. I think it's because, for one, I'm your best friend. 2, I'm the most beautifulest person you ever seen. Yes, I just made up that word, beautifulest. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And 3, because who else would you choose?
I mean, that's true. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. So that's why you chose me.
Okay. So why do you think, a lot of people may be assuming that you probably already know this answer, but I've never really shared this with you, but why do you think I chose to call this podcast The Outlook?
I think you chose to call this podcast The Outlook because we recently went to a Signs and Wonders conference, and
probably should want to explain what that is.
Okay, Signs and Wonders
is sound kind of,
right. Let's over spiritual,
just running around everywhere.
Right. No, it's a conference for young adults, and we bring in speakers that speak, not actual speakers. Speakers that speak.
I mean, we have speakers, right?
But we do worship. It's just a time for us to gather with one another and for God to share a word with us. So at that conference was where someone prophesied over you that, you have a different perspective on things. You give people a different outlook on things. Right. And how he's using us to do that in New Iberia. So that's why I think you called the podcast The Outlook.
Yeah, so just a little bit about the podcast. The reason we chose The Outlook is because all we're simply doing is presenting a view on life.
Right.
If you define outlook, it simply says a person's point of view or their general attitude about life. So I've chosen to use this platform to be a means, right, that helps people to see the world literally from the viewpoint of the people of God. So sometimes I'm going to be sharing content from sermons that I preach. And then there's going to be times where I get to interview some of my favorite people like my wife here. And hopefully you can learn from them. But kind of just today, I wanted to talk about my wife. I want you guys to get to know her better. But before I do that, babe, a lot of people don't know this, but you're a teacher, preacher, MC, worship leader. You do your own nails. I don't know what they even call it.
I did these
you
on
do
my
her own nails.
Yes.
And you're a chef in the kitchen.
I am.
Is that safe to say?
I would say that it is safe to say.
I'm
very confident.
Is that something that's common that our friends say about you? Or is it just me? What would you say?
I think my friends know I could throw down. Like,
okay.
I could cook a really good gumbo.
Come on, girl.
Fire cookies, etouffee.
So she got a wide range.
I do really well. I'd say so.
Okay.
But,
so
yeah.
I guess the question is, what I want people to gather about you is, how'd you get here? Right? Like, you got all of these titles to you, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's remarkable that you carry all of it so well, but how'd you get here? The girl from Carencro, Louisiana.
I'm not from Carencro.
Now in New Iberia, Louisiana. Like, how'd that happen? How'd you get here?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, born and raised. I live like 10 minutes from Carencro, but anyway, how did I get here? Well, I never would have thought I would have ended up here, first of all.
Talking about on the Outlook podcast?
On a podcast, as a teacher, working at a church, none of that stuff. But I grew up Baptist. We went to church from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Come on,
Baptist,
girl.
You know who I'm talking about.
That was having church. No, that didn't work out.
No, that didn't.
It didn't sound like I thought it was going to sound.
No,
sorry.
But anyway, grew up Baptist. I have 3 younger siblings and an older brother, and we grew up in church.
Right.
I never had a personal relationship with God, but it was something that my parents tried to teach me as much as they could. But then I went to college, went to UL, and I majored in political science. And I thought that I was going to be a lawyer. I was like, they make good money. You know, like I want to be somebody who helps the people. Quite honestly, I just watched Forensic Files and Law and Order.
No, you never told me this.
And I just wanted to be a lawyer from that. But when I went to college, I was like, man, this is not something I want to do. I actually interned at a job that, dealt with lawyer work and whatnot.
Right.
And it just wasn't me. You sat behind a desk. You weren't involved with a lot of people. It wasn't a lot of face-to-face interaction. Right. And I just felt like that wasn't for me. And my senior year of college was when I started going to Our Savior's Church, and I met CJ. And I had just gotten out of a really rocky relationship. I met him, and he was heavily involved in the church. And I'm like, I've never seen a guy like this. Like, never in my life have I seen a guy that involved in church and like be fully devoted to God. So it was like, it was an interest, right? I was interested. So I began to serve in the church. I started in students, and we were dating at the time, and I attended something we have called high school camp, and it's for our high school students. We hosted it at UL at the time. And that was when God literally, he gave me the call of ministry on my life. And I was like, what does that look like? What does ministry look like in your life or in my life? And that was when I realized that ministry isn't what I thought it would have been. It's not what I thought it would have been.
Ministry was?
Well, I thought I was working at a church, and that's it. Just working at a church.
Just go to church, and that's it.
Yeah, your church is your job. And that's what I thought it was.
Right.
However, when I graduated college, I didn't have a job for almost a year. And then...
How'd you survive?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I was newly married. CJ had a job. He was working with his dad at a roofing company. So I was literally surviving off of CJ. I ain't gonna lie. He did what he had to do to take care of his bride, which I appreciate. But yeah, I applied to so many jobs.
Would you say that's when you got really good at cooking, that year off?
Yeah, because I had to cook for my man. He'd come home hungry. I got to cook for him. So maybe that's how I began to dibble and dab in the kitchen. But for those 10 months, I didn't have a job. And then someone reached out to CJ, and he had recently graduated a year after me, reached out to CJ and said that they had a job position available at Acadiana Christian School in New Iberia. Yeah. And our boss met with her and her husband. They took us out to dinner. And she was like, I have a 4th grade position available for you, Aaliyah. And CJ, you would be teaching in high school.
Let's go, right?
No. I was like, first of all, 4th grade, no. Second of all, teaching. I never was like, oh, I'm going to grow up and be a teacher. Yeah, that's my job. That's my dream job. Right. Never that. So I was definitely turned off to the idea of being a teacher. Right. But
you want to share why you were turned off? Because
yeah.
I don't think you have to grow up and be turned off to being a teacher. I think that comes from something.
For sure. I saw growing up that teachers were unappreciated, underpaid. They worked after hours. And those are the 3 main things. I didn't see any success in a teacher's life to where
impacting the actual kids.
Exactly.
I get it.
Or even just impacted me to where I was like, I want to be that for someone.
Yeah, or just being good with the little money you do make.
Exactly.
Because you can make a little money and it'd be a lot.
That's true. That's very true.
That's really good.
But yeah, I just never saw anything that was attractive about being a teacher. But I worked for the school. First 2 years, I taught 4th grade. And then my 3rd year was when I began to teach middle school. And something shifted in me. I actually saw why I was there, because I was able to grow relationally with the students. It was easier. You can relate to them more. You can be more honest and more real with them. And then I was also able to teach Bible. 4th grade Bible is totally different from middle school Bible, in my opinion. And I was teaching something that I liked. I enjoyed it. And God just really showed me that he had me there for a reason. Right. And, along from that journey was when you began to work at the church, and I was involved in students with you. And, we were a team we were a team. And then you began to work at New Iberia. You were at Midtown. We were at Midtown. For 2 years, me and you.
Came here, it's been 6 months.
And then, we've been here since November. And man, God's really shown me a lot of things that I didn't know was in me. Like you said, MC. I would have never thought I would have hosted an event or
Come on, yeah.
I've hosted games for students, but that's totally different from an event. And it's something that I see that I really have a passion for, and something that I do really well in.
Come on.
So I mean, I know you asked me that one question, how did I get here? But it's like throughout the journey, God's just been like, hey, you have this gift. Hey, you do well in this. Hey, I think you could do really well in this. So it's just been a journey of God pointing out things in my life.
So would you say walking with God, a part of that process is God unraveling gifts that you have? It's not like this one moment God tells you, here's all your gifts and that's it. Would you say it's more of on the journey God starts to reveal things, or is it this one time thing where
Right.
you just kind of know? What would you say?
No, because I think it's a journey. Because if you think about it, let's say you're walking down the street that you've never been on, you see things that you've never seen before.
Right.
And the same thing when it comes to walking your journey with God. Like the more that you walk with Him, the more He'll open your eyes to the gifts
really
and the
good.
things that you have in your life. So
That's a good illustration. So tell us, where did worship become a part of this picture, right? Because a lot of people just see you on stage on Sunday,
right.
but they don't really know the backstory of how you began to use that gift for God's kingdom. Was it always that way? Like,
No.
take us on that journey.
Right. So as a kid, I always grew up singing. My mom put me in choir at the church. So I always had a gift to sing.
Right.
But when I got older was when it kind of shifted. Not singing for the church, but like singing for like different, what do you call it?
Events?
Yes, thank you. Different events. So like I would sing for like talent shows at school, or I'd sing like for baseball games, the national anthem.
Right.
Is that the national anthem? Is that a Star Spangled Banner? Wow.
Can't mess that up.
I know, right? But I would sing for these different events, and I wasn't singing for the church anymore. I auditioned for American Idol. Me and you actually, CJ actually took me there, so that was
like,
really
come
cool.
on, girl.
It was a great experience. But throughout the time, it was more so a gift that I was using for myself. Once I started to, I guess, get heavily involved in the church was when that kind of shifted a little.
Okay.
When I started, I auditioned for the worship team and began as a background vocalist. And then, eventually I was able to not move up, but share my gift more on a leading presence.
Right.
And then I noticed that, and it's kind of like a backstory, but I noticed that there wasn't an opportunity for like vocalists to grow, not only just in their giftings, but just like discipleship wise. And at the time I was in students, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a development for our students.
Come on, girl.
We had it for adults, but we didn't have it for students. So I was like, let's just do it for students.
Right.
And from there, it's been like really cool to be able to develop students. And now that we're here at New Iberia, we're starting to begin that process.
Like, you think about doing that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, it hasn't always been a God thing that I've used my voice for.
Right.
But it's become to that.
Where do you think that tendency to point our gift inward comes from? Like, what was it for you to say you started in church, but then you graduated, now you're using your gift for the things of the world? Like, what is it you think that causes someone to point their gift inwardly and make it about themselves and forget the giver of the gift?
I think it just comes with when people praise you a lot. It's easy for you to look at yourself and be like, you know what? You're right. I do sound good. And you don't ever say that to yourself, but internally you are. Right. Because some people do say that. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't that type of person to be like, you know what? I do sound good. I was always like, I don't take compliments well. But eventually, like over time, I made it about myself, and I didn't point it to. I didn't fix my focus to the giver, the one who gave me the gift. So I just think it's because like people get so much praise, they get big headed, and it's like, oh yeah, this is my gift. I did this.
That's really good. I think that's a fair point. I think there's a proverb that says that a man's heart is tested when he's being praised.
Yeah.
So I think you hit it on the nail. So I guess, how should we receive praise? What should that even look like as a believer, as someone who's trying to live their life for Jesus, who's gifted?
Yeah. I think you receive it. And I think it's easy for us to be like, I know for me, it's easy for me to be like, that was nobody but God. And it was, but that can be like so cliche. It can be like so fake.
It's y'all, it's him in you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think accepting it, but then also thanking God between you and God, like in your alone time, like, God, thank you that I was able to do that.
That's good.
Right after you get off stage. Thank you that I was able to lead these people into the presence of you. Like, that's good. So accepting it from the public, but in private, thanking God for the gift that you have.
I think that's so. Technically, what you're saying is acknowledging the giver.
For sure. Yeah.
And never allow yourself to forget that just as God gives, he can also take away.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
I love that. So a question I want to kind of circle back to, you talked about teaching and how you switched to middle school and you fell in love. So here's a question that I have personally as a youth pastor, a teacher, and just someone who cares for the next generation. What would you say you're seeing in the classroom when it comes to the condition of Gen Z, right? Like, what are you seeing? And like, how do we navigate this tension of what you're sensing from them? And what do you think the solution could be?
All right, you're going to have to ask those questions again, but I'm going to answer the first one first.
I'm going to ask them again.
So the first question was, what am I seeing in the classroom?
Yeah, like, what do you see?
Right. I'm seeing the students want to know more. I'm seeing them want to know the why behind everything. I believe that if somebody doesn't know the why behind it, then they're not going to do it. And I think that's a lot of what I'm seeing with our students is they want to know the why. Why is it that we have this in our world? Why is it that Jesus did for us? Like, they want to know the why.
Why do I need to go to church then?
Yeah, why do I need to go to church? Why do I have to read my Bible?
Right.
So I think I'm seeing a lot of them, a lot of wonder.
That's a good word.
Yeah, a lot of wonder. And how do we, what's the second question? So I can make
how do we direct them so that they can have the proper lens,
right,
or the proper outlook on life when it comes to being someone who is trying to follow God? How do we direct that wonder that you describe? How do we direct that?
I think it's what we're doing in the classroom, and it's us showing them the difference between a biblical worldview and a secular worldview. Like, we have to show them that wonder is great, but like, what's the why behind your wonder?
That's true. Like, is it so you can know and then submit?
Right.
Or so you can
just
know.
Have a puffed up head.
Correct. Like, what is it?
Right. So I just think it's giving them the evidence of what it, what the biblical worldview is and what the secular worldview is, and praying and, guiding them, leading them toward a biblical worldview.
Right.
So I think that's how you help that.
That's fair. I love that you say biblical worldview, right? Because there's so many believers and Christians out there in the world today who love Jesus,
right,
but yet they don't see the world as Jesus sees the world. Like, think about that for a moment. So many people professing faith in him, wearing crosses in their ears, wearing crosses, getting it tatted on their skin, all of this representation of Christ, right? But not many of them are really seeing the world when it comes to certain issues in society,
right,
as Christ did. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful to have you as my wife.
Thank you.
But I guess my last question for you is this. We've been married about to be 5 years, baby. That's insane.
That's amazing.
It's insane.
I say this.
We're blessed.
Before you even ask me a question, this has been the greatest 5 years of my life. I'm not saying I'm bad with math. The other 23 years of my life was trash. But like, I love my husband, y'all. I love the fact that he is a God-fearing man. I love the fact that he cares for me and he tends to my needs. And I'm just so appreciative of you. I really am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But anyway, go on.
Here's what I want to ask you, kind of on the same vein of what you just said.
Okay.
Like, you've had the best 5 years, and I'm sure it's not because of things that you probably learned before you got married. So what's one thing you wish you would have knew when it came to relationships, right? Like, relationship goes the big topic. No matter what year, no matter how far we go into the future, that's always going to be a topic, especially among students. So what do you wish someone would have told you, or even warned you, or even encouraged you to do before you got married?
I wish someone would have told me to make sure I work on myself before I get in a relationship. I think the things that you don't work on, whether it's a friendship or whether the things that you don't work on in yourself, whether you're entering a friendship or like a, what do you call it? A relationship between husband and wife, whatever you want to call it. The things that you don't work on is going to be like blown up whenever you get in this relationship. So I wish somebody would have told me to work on myself, work on my mindset, work on my health, work on my finances. Like, I just wish somebody would have told me to work on myself before you get with someone else.
Right.
because some things that I might struggle with or some things that I might have not dealt with can affect you, you know?
Yeah.
So I think just working on yourself before you get into a relationship is a really big deal.
That's good. So before you try to get in a relationship, work on yourself.
Yeah. And it's not just like a self-help type ordeal.
Right.
It's like, if you have a biblical worldview, working on yourself means growing yourself in who God calls you, who's God, oh my God, I can't talk. If you have a Christian worldview, working on yourself is growing yourself in who God has called you to be.
Come on, girl, you got it.
Thank you. It's not, you know, I feel like working on yourself nowadays is like, oh, you got to have the nice body. You
Right.
got to make sure that you look good and your
Right.
hair on point and your
Right.
nails on point. Don't get me wrong. Like, those things are important to women. And
Right. It's all about hot girl summer.
yeah, no, that's not the case when it comes to working on yourself. Like, spiritually, you need to work on yourself. Mentally, like all of these aspects, it's important that you work on yourself before you get into a relationship.
Right.
Deal with the past hurts that you've dealt with, like with the past relationships you've been in. Deal with the family hurt that you've been through. Like, work on yourself. And then also through that, grow your relationship with God. I mean, that could be as simple as you going to church every day. Small step of going to church, or that's a big step. Reading your Bible or getting plugged into
Right.
your church, taking your next steps. It's like, it's not just the outer realm of you working on yourself, but it's the inner
good.
being of you
That's
and
good.
the outside as well.
Yeah, don't spend so much time on the outside of the cup. that you miss the
Exactly.
inside.
Because you could be dirty all up in here, but look good all on the outside.
That's true.
So yeah.
That's good. What I'm hearing you say is it's very essential that we work on ourselves.
Yeah.
What would you say is a danger of not working on ourselves and getting in a relationship? Because some people hearing this and they're like, I'm ready in a relationship. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to stay in it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they know they haven't done the hard work. What would you say is a danger of neglecting that advice and bringing all of that toxicness into the relationship? What would you say is a danger?
I mean, I think you end up hurting not only yourself, but that other person as well. Because you're too selfish to not work on yourself, that you end up hurting somebody else.
And hurt people.
Hurt people.
Wow. So deal with your junk.
Yeah, deal with your junk. Like, it's a sacrifice, but it's good.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Babe, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being my first guest on this podcast. So far, what I got from you is biblical worldview is essential. Teaching students the difference between a biblical worldview and a secular worldview.
Yes.
And then you also said how when God calls you, sometimes he doesn't reveal everything that he wants to give you, the gifts, right?
Yeah.
But if you keep walking with him, he's going to show you certain things along the journey.
Yeah.
So it's not about a sprint and getting there. It's about the journey.
Yeah. It's a marathon, not
It's
a sprint.
marathon. I love that. Come on, you preaching.
I am.
And then lastly, before you get in a relationship, do the hard work.
Yep.
Work on yourself. Because if you don't, then you got to work on, you get in a relationship and you'll find yourself having to work on the other person.
Exactly.
Or trying to work on the other person.
Right. Yeah.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you again, baby.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for asking me these questions.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted the people to get to know you.
well, I hope y'all did. I had fun up here.
But again, Outlook Podcast, all this is, we're just presenting a view to you. Okay? So much information in this world. And we just want to present a view so that hopefully through you tuning in and leaning in, maybe something we're sharing leans into you. So again, thank you guys for leaning in today.